Good morning, welcome to Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Peterborough, New Hampshire. I'm Pastor David Mueller, and we're glad to have you join us today. We're going to be starting this morning with a special presentation, and I'd like Jenny to make the introduction.
I heard about I pronounce it Gbarnga, and I'm wrong. It's simply Gbarnga Mission in Liberia, and it was brought about or started by the Providence Lutheran Church in Providence, Rhode Island, and it's a district mission and a very a lively and successful school and medical center and a lot of other things too in Liberia. And we thought that it was something our church has supported on one-time gifts, and that we'd like to know more about it. So Mr. Rossman will tell you what he knows.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for making the connection, Jenny. This was started by a group down in St. Paul's in Providence. Their church over the years had transformed into mostly Africans because during the Civil War in Liberia, a lot of refugees came, and so their congregation is mostly Liberians right now. So I got involved when I met Pastor Schultz on the mission board in the New England district. So we're working in Liberia, which is a small country on the West African coast. It's about the size of Tennessee, and we are up near the city of Gbarnga. So I give you the pronunciation. Everybody wants to say Gbarnga, but it's Gbarnga. So it was a country started by repatriated slaves back in the 1800s, and a lot of connections to the United States, the Constitution. A lot of things were modeled after the U.S., even the flag. Capital city Monrovia after President Monroe. A lot of these throughout the country, you'll see areas named after American things. So there was 14 years of civil war, a couple of different civil wars over that period, and really the country was decimated in infrastructure and many people killed. So right now about half the population is children, and only about a third of those children are enrolled in school. So there's a huge opportunity for a school. And Pastor Schultz, who's the pastor at St. Paul's, his congregation had said, let's go back to where we're from in Liberia, and over a course of a couple of trips, a piece of land was offered for building a school, so that's 15 acres for us to build this school. So I got involved early on. But when the children are not in school, these are the kinds of things that they're doing. So maybe your kids might be doing some of these things. I don't know if you let your daughter hold a big knife like this. This boy is so proud. He's just showing how he just cleaned this chicken off. He's ready to go. I have one of these fishing nets in the back to give you an example. The girls go out and go fishing in some of the swamp areas. Maybe they'll be doing the dishes or cooking for the family. Chopping wood, I don't know, wouldn't have let my son at this age use a big axe like this. Hauling water, doing other chores, and kids taking care of kids. Or maybe you're hauling mud blocks for a house that you're building. These are all the kinds of things that are keeping kids out of school. So our mission is to share God's love as we facilitate education, economic development, community development, and health initiatives. So all these kinds of things surround sharing the gospel and trying to keep the children in the school. So we're actually in this village called Deanville. It was part of this family, the Deans, that gave this portion of their property. So the chief of the village is Chief Winston Dean, and this is the kind of the environment that you see in most of the rural areas in Liberia. Some of the houses are a little better off with some metal roofs, but you'll see a lot of this. So this you'll find in the middle of a lot of the villages. This is their kitchen, so everybody kind of cooks under the same area. So this little A-frame, especially during the rainy season, they get a lot of rain. It's in Monrovia, they get about 200 inches of rain in a year, which is over a 6-month period of the rainy season and 6 months dry season. So it's a wet world when it's wet. So here's some traditional food that they would eat. It's called Fufu, with the middle, it's like a big dumpling. It's made out of cassava, which is a root plant. So they make that into a flour. And then chicken feet, because they really can't afford any quality pieces of meat. If they have meat, it's some small pieces of smoked fish or chicken feet. So here's my cooking tip for the day. If you want to cook chicken feet, always cook them with their feet up, so all the marrow comes out into the soup and it gives it a better flavor. That's what they taught me. So the national language is English, but there's many tribal dialects. There's about 25 tribal languages. In the area we are, they speak a language called Pele, and again, you drop that K, Pele. So I thought maybe you'd want to learn a little Pele this morning. So to say good morning to an individual, you would say Yaun. So a group is Ka, so it's Ya for single, Ka for a group. So I would say Kaun to you. So if you want to say good morning to me, you say Yaun.
Yaun.
Okay, so now you know some Pele. And so somebody may say back to you Yatua, which is in the afternoon, or they reply to Kumeni, which kind of means what's happening, what news is literally what it means. So it's interesting to try to learn some of the language, and of course they laugh when I try to say stuff. Most people do some kind of subsistence gardening. They do a lot with palm, turning it into either soap or palm oil. And again, the fishing. So when we first started, it was 2014, a group of people went over from St. Paul's. I was there. Pastor Yaden, President Yaden back in the day was with us. And we dedicated this 15 acres. We were supposed to come back and start construction. There was already some fundraising going on. And then Ebola hit West Africa. And that delayed things. And but part of the agreement was when we got over there that the community would have cleared a portion of this 15 acres. But when we returned, turned out to be only me at that point. The group kind of dissipated. Pastor Schultz had back surgery. He couldn't come. Some other people dropped out. For whatever reason, I ended up being the only person. And this is what the 15 acres looked like. They didn't clear anything. So we started from scratch. And so this is what it looks like now. So we started basically construction in 2015. And here we are now. We have on the right-hand side is the kitchen for the school. Way in the back is a guest house. The main school building that we first built that opened classes in 2017. And then on the far left is this new building that we just recently dedicated that has more classrooms, multi-purpose room. That's the cafeteria also. So here's Pastor, here I am with Sumo, our principal. And he is another person that, God puts certain people in your path. This is a person that is a fantastic administrator, has a passion for education, and actually has a bachelor's degree, which is very uncommon for people in Liberia. Most people don't get through high school. We did a survey in the community of Deanville, and most people either never went to school or they only finished about 4th grade. So a lot of the adults are illiterate. So in the morning you'll see all the kids coming from different areas of the village, walking to school. And right now we have just finished the school year with 134 children. We've been working from the bottom up to try to build literacy with the students. So we're not starting a K through 12 and hoping that the kids in 12th grade can read, because we know a lot of the public schools, the kids can't read even in 12th grade. So we've started with kindergarten and preschool, and worked our way up, adding a grade every year. So now we're up to 4th grade. This coming year we add 5th grade. So with preschool through 4th, we have these 134 kids. Our teachers are really fantastic. We've been really blessed to have Christian teachers who are motivated to learn new ways of teaching. And so every morning they come in and the students stand at the flagpole. They do devotions, they sing songs, and it's very interesting to watch how they set things up, because they have very rigid ideas about certain things. And one of them is that you always line up the boys separately and the girls separately, and you do them by height. And so they spend time with this little arrangement. But the kids are motivated. You'll see that we provide a meal every day, and that's really a motivator for kids to come to school. Most of the schools around don't have meals for the kids. We're also trying to maintain some of the culture. We're not plopping an American school in Liberia. and hoping that it'll work. We're really trying to work within the context of Liberia. And so one of the things is keeping the cultural aspects. So there's a culture troupe that sings and does traditional Liberian dance. And here's one of the cooks preparing some of the meals. So every day the staff and the students all get a meal. And for some of the kids, this is their only meal of the day. And in fact, the Principal Sumo had to have a conversation with some families because over the weekends their kids weren't even eating until they got back to school on Monday. So trying to keep the kids healthy is a big struggle. So this is our new library. Very few schools have libraries, and they certainly don't have a library like this. We've had one of our efforts is to do some mentoring of the teachers, and so Sharon in the middle is part of a grant that we have through the Rotary that's helping us to bring in new ways of teaching for the educators. You know, really they've been taught the way they learned in school, which is very rote. So the kids will spend a lot of time copying something on the board and copying it in their book, and they have no idea really what they're learning because they're doing just copying. So we're trying to bring in more project-based learning and things that we do kind of take for granted in the United States that are norms, and still within the context of Liberia. So a lot of the books we're trying to get have African aspects to them. And so here are some of the people from the Rotary that are here to see how their grant is being used. And one of the interesting things with the library is that you'll see adults now grabbing a book out of the library. Because during the war, most of these young adults were kids and they couldn't go to school because they were fleeing from the rebels. This is James, he's our head of security. And I found him reading one of these Mercer Mayer books one day. And you can see him trying to read just like you would like a first or second grader trying to struggle to read and reacquaint himself with where he ended in school. So because of the high illiteracy rates, we've started an adult literacy class, and so we do it in the evenings. So we have solar on the school building, and part of the curriculum that we use is we have Good News Bibles, and we kind of tie that all into the adult class as well. So there's no electricity, there's no running water anywhere around, even in the city of Gbarnga. People run generators, there's no infrastructure since the Civil War. And so literally when you see the campus at night, we're the only thing lit up. So we're both a light in the community physically and from the gospel perspective. So here's a woman, Gorma. She has children in the school, they're actually her grandchildren, and she was in the adult literacy class, and she speaks primarily Pele, but she started taking this adult class, and one of the interesting things is that in the evening she'd come back and be doing her homework for her class, and her grandchildren were doing homework for their class, and they're all kind of doing education together as a family. And so for Gorma, this is the first time in her life she can actually write her name. So we've started vocational classes. One of the goals is to give kids some skills, because we know that we have a 19-year-old, for example, in 4th grade. Is he going to stay the entire time through 12th grade? Probably not likely. So to try to give some skills, we have started recently vocational classes in baking and soap making. You'll see on the table some of the soap I brought back last trip. And tailoring. So these are for the kids in the school that are going to K through 4 right now, and they're also for adults in the community that come in the afternoon session. So between those 3 vocational classes, we have about 100 adults coming to these classes now. And part of that is that there's devotions and trying to give the good news as part of the vocation, not just give them skills, but share about God's love. So one of the long-term goals is self-sufficiency and long-term sustainability of this without complete support from outside. So we have a couple of small businesses on the campus. The guest house we rent rooms out of, and actually it's on Airbnb. We've had people stay from the United States that have found us on Airbnb and going through Liberia. We've started a poultry farm, We have about 800 chickens now, primarily for eggs. That's been a struggle to get it to work well, but we also use the eggs for the kids for some of their meals. The other thing that's keeping kids out of school is health issues. So you'll see that this woman is washing their clothes, the girl's bathing in here, downstream someone else is hauling water out of it and they're using it for cooking. Upstream, you never know what somebody else is doing in there. So kids constantly have some kind of water-related illness. So we've been providing wells in the community. So at this point we've put in 6 of these hand pump wells in different parts of the community to provide clean drinking water for them. On the campus we have a deep borehole well that runs in through a chlorination system up to this water tower that serves the whole campus. So they're drinking clean water at the school, and now they're drinking clean water at home. So part of our mission is health initiatives. We've had mission teams go over that are healthcare workers. This is Roxanne, for those from Long Island, she's from Garden City. So we did a clinic both at the school, 2 different mission trips to address health issues. Malaria is a huge problem. You'll have families where someone has malaria every month, the entire year, somebody's got malaria. And so we treated a lot of malaria, typhoid, other things. And here's a young man, Charles. He's studying to be a nurse. So he was working alongside of us, and we're working toward getting Charles to be a community health advocate, we're calling him. So he'll be going around in the community to try to help cut off issues before they become too much. So a lot of times people use country medicine, so they'll make these batches of things with greens and all that. And a woman had these big sores on her body that came to the clinic, and she had these greens that were all infected in her sores because she was trying to heal it with country medicine. And some things you just can't heal with that kind of thing. So because of malaria, we've done net distributions so that families sleep under nets. And you can't just hand out nets, you have to do education, because nets have a lot of other secondary purposes. Go fishing with them, they're very good for that. They put things over their nurseries for their small plants. But these are insecticide treated nets, so you have to train about how they're contaminating the water supply, making you sick, teaching them how to use them correctly. And of course sharing the gospel directly by the local churches, so we distribute Good News Bibles to those that are literate and try to tie that into those who aren't literate as part of the program. So different ways to support the mission. We have a sponsorship program, info on the back table. So we have almost all the students now are sponsored. We have about 8 that don't have sponsors. And then the next incoming class will have more new students. If you've got expertise, skills that you want to share, certainly if you want to pray for and write to our students or the staff, when I go on trips, I carry letters and I give them out to the sponsored students, to teachers that may be getting letters. So I'm going again in October. If you're interested in sending a letter, I can give you info on where to mail that to me. We've started an endowment fund. We're trying to get some long-term support for this, that when we get to a certain point, the funds will drive that. So I also brought some baskets, if you're interested in donating toward one of those. Some of the women in the village make these, and I've had them at LWML and the New England District Convention in various churches, and people have bought those to help support the mission. I've been writing a blog on and off since I started in 2015 going there. If you want to hear a lot of different stories, I was brought into court. They tried to arrest everybody on the campus because somebody claimed that it was their property. I got malaria. There's all kinds of stories in there you can read about. Talking about the suffering servant. But thank you for your support, and I appreciate you having me here and for inviting me. And if you have questions, take some time while we disassemble. So any questions?
Yeah.